En nou, over Bloom gaan we lekker weer verder. Neo4j Bloom. Eindelijk hebben we een extra visualization tool. Ik ben er ontzettend blij mee dat we dat ding hebben. Oh, I'm very happy that we have now a visualization tool addition in our product stack. And yeah, the whole goal of this one was to make it possible to view a lot of nodes on your screen without getting lost. And also to make it possible to investigate your graph without having to type any query language, any cipher. So we built from ground up the visualization engine. It's based on WebGL, so it makes use of your graphical CPU on your machine. And there is the big box where you ask things to the database and get your data back. What's also important is that you can, it helps you guiding to your graph, and we call it the Bloom chart type, so a different way of showing your data. And if you look here, this is the source of the property view. And what is also important is that it can give you suggestions to search for, and it also saves your scenes. And a scene, this is a scene, which is a result of one or more queries. So what terms do we have in Bloom? So we have graph perspectives, which means you can have multi-perspectives on the same graph, and you can define per perspective which labels you want to include, or which categories in Bloom language you want to include in your view, so you can have different views on the same data. And yeah, I already said visualization, it's a high performance visualization. And yeah, that was the big step for this first release, to get that right. And yeah, it is very powerful in then exploring the graph. What's also interesting is that you can edit the graph. So if you are on a node, then you can edit a node if you want to do that. Maybe sometimes it is not a good thing for every user to be allowed to do that, so you have to make use of the database security to make sure that you have read-only users or admin kind users which can change data. And there's a graph search component in it which you can extend yourself by adding your own new domain-specific language. So now I already talked about graph perspective. And you can just limit a perspective just to view only one part of your graph. So some examples are on this sheet. And you can also select the property which you want to see or the relationships. And define entity patterns, which is the search stuff. Now, graph search, I will show that in a demo in a moment. But you can do search everywhere, like a full text search over all the nodes and relationships. You can find graph patterns, and that can be saved queries. Or you can also enhance those saved queries by helping you to build up a question. Now, let me show you the tool. And then in the end, I show the differences between the Neo4j browser. I think that's better. So, Bloom is distributed via the Neo4j desktop. And I have here a very famous database which I use a lot, a fraud demo database with fake fraud data in it, and bank accounts and credit cards and that kind of stuff. And this one is now running. So if I open now a desktop app, which is Bloom, he automatically sees that this is the running database and he connects to it. Let's do that. Now he's now building up the screen. And you see now that he has some things loaded there. This is the result of the perspective, which I now use. And these are the categories which are defined in the perspective. So account holder, address, bank account, etc. And now I can do nice stuff. This here is the main thing, going to the search box. And the nice thing is that it's high performance, so I can load a lot of nodes which make a very beautiful bloom of it. So if I, for instance, say, give me all the financial institutes, and the bank accounts of those, then you see it automatically sees that there's a graph pattern, and then I can enter it. And now he loads data. In this case, he has 5,000 bank accounts and 75 financial institutions. And yeah, you see that you can zoom out, but you can also zoom in. And the more you zoom in, the more you see. So you see labels coming, display properties, and relationship types. Now, this is probably not a good query when you try to, this was only to show a nice visualization. It's not a real thing. Let me, I want to investigate two people. One person has the name Case in it, and it gives me Lakeisha. And you see that this is the result of this first query. And I can also check if there's a Johnny in the system. And he adds the result of one query to the visualization. And now I can do nice things. Something like the shortest path between those two. Easy to do. I already showed you the possibility to have graph patterns. So he knows the tool knows the database and what is the schema in it. So I can do things like account holder, which has an SSN, a social security number, and shared with another account holder. And this is typically something we don't want. So let's check for fraudulent situations. If I now hit enter, he finds those for me. So you can also and I can also show there more data, so I can just add an address, for instance. Gives me the addresses of those people to it. Now this is just an example of pattern search. So I showed you full text search, pattern search. And now you can also combine those things together. And when I do clear scene, then it's gone. But if you do a query and you close Bloom and open it afterwards, he just loads the latest scheme you retrieved from the database. So I can also do things like this. Account holder, shared an SSN, and I know one person which I want to do. That was D. I think, hey, I put in now a name, and then we find the specific case of D. Senko, who is using a social security number with two other people. Now, as you see here, I can double-click on a node, and then I see also the properties. So I can, for instance, change the property. Luister die naar mij. There he is. And then put the letter behind it. This is just all fake data, so I don't. It's not a good habit to change a unique ID, but you can change data. That is the nice thing about this one. I can, from this node, this account holder, Fernando Georgia, I can see the relationships to it. And if I want to, I can click on it, and then it follows. Then you can follow the graph. You can also ask for this one, all the neighbors which are there. I already have those two. Now you can close this one like this. Now this is how can I manipulate this view? So how can I change colors or decide how to show things? I can do that via the perspectives. And this moment I have the fraud-ring perspective, and you see I have a lot of categories here which are also to the right. So if I have the category address, I can choose here. I choose here the color of the node. And I make it purple, or what? And I can also change icons here. And you see here, I don't have an address. That was not a good example. I take a person. I changed it one to this one. You see automatically that he changes the view of the data. I can also say I want to have the birth date, so two fields with it. So it shows now the name, the full name, and the birth date. There's one thing you can do. So you can also add search phrases to the system. Now, if I just clear the scene again and show you the search phrase. So in this demo, we want to detect fraud rings. And the typical thing about fraud rings is that people sharing attributes, so like social security numbers, email, phone, that kind of stuff. And in this query, I defined the query, give me all the persons which are probably in a fraud ring. So if you do things, you know certain patterns where you always have to look at, you can just save them in your queries, and then you can access that query via the search phase here. High risk individuals. So let's do that. It is high risk individuals. You see it here. When I do that, he automatically executes the query, which I have here. Now these are all the possible fraudulent persons, and you see that every node is now selected. So you see here 59 account holders and 59 selected. So I can also do things like expand the selection. So I can expand every node in the selection. Be aware if your database has a lot of relationships. It's probably not wise, but in this thing I can do it. So I can do that, and then you see all the things which are related to the fraud rings. Now let me pick this one. I can select this one like this. Come on. You didn't select it. Now it's selected. Now I can say dismiss the other nodes. So I'm only going further with this one. And now I can zoom in and see that two are sharing an address and two are sharing a phone number. It's probably not a really strong case, but Anyway, I can just go on exploring here. Now, about the visualization, it's very nice to get more nice things. It's totally not interesting, but I can add some extra nodes, and I have now 3 institutions. Come on. And if I now expand again, then I have all the bank accounts of those financial institutes. Let's do it. There we go again. Now, I told you that you can have multiple perspectives. And there's also another perspective on this data set. There's also something about e-commerce and purchases and shops and share strange patterns and logins, credit cards and delivery addresses. So I can just go to that one, and then I see, hey, the transaction perspective. And here you see that automatically the categories are changing. And here I also have search phrases. And here there's a very powerful one. It's a search phrase with parameters. So in this case I can do purchase from a shop on a certain date. So the shop can be filled by this query, give me all the shop names, and the date give me all the distinct dates of the purchases. And now I can do nice things like this. So purchase from shop, now, for instance, on a certain date. Now this is date, but I can also change it and add also the purchases of another date. So maybe it's going too fast, but so he sees these are the shops in the database. Then he gives me the possible dates. No, not this one doesn't have anything. This one has it. And with this tool, with those search phrases, you can make your own domain-specific query language without knowing Cypher. Yeah, the one who creates these things has to know Cypher. But the good thing is that you can export and import these perspectives, so you can distribute them. What can I show more? This is basically the current functionality. So do you like it? Oh, nice.
Are there any limitations on how big the database is?
By default, he puts for all the queries he fires to the database, he sets a limit on 10,000. But even then you have to be smart. Now, I like the full text search. If I start with Johnny, it's just like multiple expands, so I go on expanding. And see what happens. So I have now not that many still. If I start now adding stuff. So you know now why we call it Bloom. It's also from the movie, The Matrix. Now we're getting somewhere. He had a good mood. But the visualization engine tried to cluster things together which he can cluster together. If I do it one more time, then I get a little bit, a lot of work, CPU time going on. Yeah. Yeah. See, now he tries now to. No, this is not so bad. I can. It take a while, and then he's done calculating. But if you, for instance, have queries done on your data, you apply algorithms on it for page rank and betweenness, and you can use that in queries. It can be a very good combination with each other. Questions about this one?
But we were talking about movie Bloom.
Movie Bloom? Ah, the movie. Okay. Our product manager, or the owner of this project, he presented it internally, and you know, Neo is character in the matrix, APOC is a character in the matrix, Cypher is, and then he make there was one scene in the matrix where there was a face with bloom in it, flowers in it, and he says, "There's it coming from." So you take that scene, but not really. So yeah, this is the first version of this product, and it is geared to data scientists, so people who have to analyze the data. You can think in the future about multiple things going added on this one. Also a server kind of variant where you can share your scenes with each other, or you can have more roles like people don't have to use the desktop application. You can just open it in the browser and log in the system. But that is all, I don't know when it's coming, but it is on the roadmap. So.
Did you show the shortest path like things?
Yeah, yeah. Let me see. Ron, is he there? No, Ron. So this currently in the early access program, but it is already in the last graph tour in San Francisco it was announced. So I think the end of this month it will be released, or beginning next month. Good question. If I'm correct, enterprise users have to pay something, but that is more Rick's department that he's gone. And how that's going to work out, I don't know exactly. So I cannot promise anything, but I think, I hope, that it will be available for your local machine. So if you have a local database, you can do stuff with it already. Which is also in line with the Neo4j desktop, where you have the enterprise edition locally available. See, this is an alpha product or a beta product, so he has some problems now. Reload.
So during the design, did you compare functionality to Gaphy, the other open source?
With all the things they look at it, and yeah, a lot probably. Yeah, I was not involved in all the design things. I give sometimes my input on the things I want, and not everything is in there yet, but probably will come. But yeah, the main step of this first 1.0 release is also to have the visualization engine working properly and good. So it's again, and then it's fixed. Can I show you some more, or yeah, not that much anymore. But do you have query questions, or?
Is it possible to export
I think it's not yet in here. I didn't see it yet, but you can in any way, if you switch on the experimental features, you can export and import your perspective. So you can, all your definitions of your categories and colors and icons, and the search phrases, the queries, you can export and import them.
Also as a cipher print?
Yeah, if you look here, in the export, these queries will be taken also into it. So these queries.
If you have a visualization, can you export that as a cipher?
If we have a server variant, the scene, we call it, that's something you can save probably later on a remote server. What he now does in the first release is that he just keeps the data. So if I take the high risk individuals again, and I select only one node here, and then I do expands. So this is all loaded in the scene, and the complete visualization he keeps. So when I now close Bloom and open it again, he automatically loads that scene again. I didn't try this before.
The examples you've shown us have been for static data, an existing database for the most part.
Yeah.
If you have a database that's being updated in real time, will it reflect that?
Yeah, all the queries are real time.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's
It won't automatically pop out new
no.
data.
There's an there was. I saw a functionality. Let me see if I can find it. There was a reload kind of thing. Why don't I see it anymore? No, it, no. Hmm? Yeah, refresh data. So what then it tries to refresh the data from the current nodes. It's probably not from new nodes. Then you have to rerun your query again.
Is it also possible to edit the relationship?
If there are properties on the relationship, it's also possible to edit that one. I only managed to do it with the properties. And if I say I have a credit card, there are properties, but in this one has no properties. So currently, in this version, it's only updating. I didn't see any buttons to add a property yet. Let me see if there is a relationship with, I've taken the other one. You see that he doesn't know these nodes or labels in this perspective, so he automatically goes to the other one, so he makes it black. I have to check which one has properties on the relationships. I don't think I have in this data set properties on relationships. So, but just like this, you have then the properties here and then relationships it will be in this, in here. Can do a small test. Always showing other stuff, huh? I did it before, I think. Test. Should be there. It doesn't have it yet, has it yet? It's the first time that I do this, so yeah, I break it somewhere. Latest resort is our overnight build. Come on, you can do this. I do it all the time when I do this. I removed the Neo4j desktop with my running database. I should not do that. I should only close Bloom. Yeah. It automatically stops it. So some things have to be done until the release. So almost every day changes still. Too early. There he is. He doesn't see it as a pattern. Maybe I don't have properties on those. Let me see. I will keep that for you. I don't get it now running. I think he expects to have properties. But I'm not sure. So I will keep it like this. Hopefully you see a lot of things. You've seen a lot of things. What is working? And if I look here. So it's really different than the Neo4j browser, which is this one, our standard interface for creating and doing stuff in Neo4j. And so it's a kind of storyboarding tool instead of a developer tool. And it's also delivered for, made for different people, domain experts and business analysts at this moment. And also on this can leverage Bloom specific APIs. That's also things for the future, which gives more functionality in Bloom itself. Okay. So that's what that was it about Bloom. Yeah, question?
Could you say it's a very, very crude analogy? Bloom is a GUI, and the Neo4j browser is a CLI. Very crude. Graphic user interface.
Yeah, more or less. And the other one was something?
CLI command line
Yeah.
interface.
But the command line interface also has a little bit of it.
Okay, but very crude.
Yeah. The Neo4j browser is meant for developers, kind of the DBA. It's creating a database, wants to do statements in the database, wants to check and tune its queries. And the whole point about Bloom is that you can do things without knowing site and just start exploring the data with more natural language instead of a query language. Yeah. More questions?
Is it still possible to use Cypher in that box? Or?
Not in that box. You mean here, in here? No.
Like in Google, you can also do some magical queries with and or. So if you know the syntax, you can
You have to
Google ask what you want, but
you have to do it all.
create some kind of.
You have to do it all here.
Yeah. Okay.
You might imagine that things like search for a name of a thing, you search for GoDataDriven. It can be either on every property of a node, but if you specify it wants to find GoDataDriven as a company name, then you might be more specific. Makes sense.
Yeah, no, I can fix it, but it takes me 5 or 10 minutes, and I think the original time was until 15 minutes ago.
So it seems that it would be very powerful to compete against an analyst type of utility like IBM's IT Analyst Notebook, but for that would probably need some type of API or containerization, so it could be represented out in external, picked up in an external application. So what are the integration strategy?
So the first thing is that you can probably store a scene and also publish it. It's only the visualization, but not the query engine behind it. But that is something which is also foreseen to do that.
What format does it get published out?
I don't know exactly.
I think the main difference between IBM Notebook, Analyst Notebook, and this is that Analyst Notebook you can add data to that tool, and this is definitely connected to a Neo4j database. So you first need to put the data into the Neo4j database, and then you would be able to visualize it.
Yep.
I think that's the difference.
At this moment.
Does that make sense to you?
Well, I'm I'm not sure that was my question. It was really about the utility of the tool in a wider context, and just saying that you could, commercialize this if it could be adopted into an analyst type of tool like I2. And yeah, for a lot of analysts don't want to add data; they just want to explore.
Yeah. I think the first step is to share scenes, and one of my wish lists is also to make the visualization library separate, available, so you can build your own applications with it. That's definitely not there yet. We are really in the first step to make these things. Other questions? I think then we are done for today. Thank you for your time.